Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the R&D Podcast. I am your host, Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about, is your friend's circle partiers or prayer warriors? This is specifically if you are in couples circles.
What P are they pushing? Pushing
P?
Okay. Is it
Push your P.
Push your P. Is it party or prayer? I think that's so important. I mean, you can have a little bit of both sometimes, right? Where they like to party, but they also like to pray. Some people don't like to pray. They just want to party. So I think that it's important that, you know, wherever you're at in your spiritual journey, that you align with people in, you know, those spheres, right? Because if everyone's trying to party and do the Vegas thing, do Miami and do this and party and all the things, I think that...
Or you're just like hanging out at someone's house because the kids are running around.
Yes, that's true. And then everyone's drinking and then it's like this whole thing. Versus, you know, I think sometimes though, I will say... There's a fine line between the person that's very much a Bible thumper, in my opinion. This is what I've seen. People that are very into their religion, there's something off, in my opinion. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, those are the people.
Demons. They got
I
the real
really believe
demons
that. I really truly believe that. I think oftentimes those are the people that are probably the ones that are more likely to cheat, which is kind of weird, right? They're the ones that are like hosting the Bible studies that you're like, he would never, she would never, but you know, she's got a personal trainer and guess what she's doing in the back, you know what I'm saying? You know, I'm just saying, like, I've seen that, like, there's a fine line between that, or people that are very heavily into their religion. And the moment, like, I notice that, this is what I've noticed, when I go to mass in English, very standard, everyone's just kind of in their own, they're kind of minding their own business. When you go to a mass in Spanish, man, all the señoras are looking back at you and they do not hide that they just looked at you up and down. And I bet you that señora does Bible studies. She's probably part of the choir and she's probably there every Sunday. Pero esa señora, like, she is looking at you up and down and I'm like, lady, you're in church. Like, what is happening here? You know, the judgments are coming through and I'm like, seriously. So my point to this is that there's a fine line between having someone that, you know, like, you know, friends that are into partying, and then there's a fine line between them being really heavily into their religion. I kind of question either or, by the way, because there's got to be a fine line. Like, there's got to be a little fine line between...
the party friends on Friday and then the prayer friends on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say this. I didn't really have experience like the couples on couples and all this kind of stuff, although there was always couples around. There would also be singles mixed in too.
Right.
With this particular topic, you know, I've now come to see people that are very strict, like if you're married or coupled up, like then you're in the club and you can go with them on that like ski trip or whatever it is. They don't allow singles in because they think it's a little bit dangerous or risky or whatever, okay, to the marriages.
But
or
we
whatever.
all know that.
We already know.
Yeah, everyone's running risks anyway.
You know,
you slippery.
But then recently I've been seeing now people that only go and hang out with other couples who are dialed into their faith and who are on their faith journey. So their thing is to get together. They might go to the mountains. They might go to dinner. But also they're going to go like to certain church things like maybe Wednesday Bible study or worship or something like that. And I've seen that. And then one particular person, and she's on my team and I love her. She's been amazing. She's doing this in her marriage. And it's like, I don't know how many couples, 5 couples or whatever. It's a lot of them. And she was saying that when they have issues, one of the couples will start having issues, that they kind of, all the ladies get together, the guys get together, and they really start to kind of counsel each other, and they really band together. And sometimes they'll just have dinner at one of the people's houses, and they really talk about the issues. So it's almost like this couple's have an issue, but they put it like on the table, and then the men and the women, and it's almost like they really nurture their unity. And I find that to be very fascinating. I have not personally experienced that. I find it to be very, very fascinating. And then there's another school of thought that if you have couples, right, you're in your couples group or whatever, friends group, and then one of them gets divorced, they're both 86th from that whole thing. Yeah. Because people don't, it's contagious kind of, they think, divorce. Yeah. And the mentality of it and the mess of it. So we just wanted to do this episode to really kind of unpack that.
Yeah, but I definitely, so going back to what you're saying, I think what happens also, what I've noticed is, you know, if the husbands are all in cahoots, because then sometimes, you know, you have like the friends that you have, your girlfriends, and then the guys, have a tendency to become friends also. And so if the one guy is, going off on the other side, so maybe this guy, is doing the same thing. Yeah. So is this guy, maybe this guy's doing it too. And so is this guy doing it too. And so I think that sometimes, if the man knows he's not being so fair with his wife, he thinks that you're going to rattle cages, and she's going to think, well, she left him. And if you're not being right with your significant other, then she might get the crazy hair idea to say, you know what, it isn't too bad if she did it. I mean, maybe I could do it too. And so I think for those reasons, and for the reasons of now you're a single woman entering a single environment, that you're going to tag or grab your married friend and say, come out with me, let's go out to this nightclub, let's go out to this bar, or that type of thing. Or you might be on the outside looking in thinking, you know what, maybe I'm tired of being in this marriage and I want to do what she's doing. So I think for a lot of reasons people protect their marriage, and that's one of the main reasons. I know that for me, personally, I have been invited, uninvited. If it's if it's
couples
single girls
versus singles, If
it's single girls, okay, cool, all day long, I'm invited. If the couples are coming together, I'm probably not going to get invited to that. And I've come to that realization. I have no hard feelings over it. If I put myself in their shoes, I'd probably be just as protective. I think that we talk about this on the show a lot. Growing hedges on your marriage. I think that's very important. And I think at the end of the day, why would you bring meat to the lion's den? You know what I mean? You wouldn't want to do that. So why would you do that? So I think it's a matter of understanding where you're at and protecting what you have. Really.
Do you believe that if it's all couples hanging out, but it's the party group, that's safe for your marriage?
I definitely do not. Yeah. And I think not. It's because the reason why I don't believe that it's a safe environment if you're doing it a lot is because there's always going to be, for whatever reason, I just don't know what it is, the one girl or the one guy trying to give the one girl googly eyes. And it's this one thing that these slippery women will do, and you can't call them out on it. It's like they start to do this whole thing like, oh my God, and then all of a sudden the guy becomes a comedian. We've seen this. The guy ain't that funny. You're like, okay, he's funny, but he ain't that funny. And she starts playing with her hair all of a sudden, like, oh my God. And it's like, how do you call her out? Like, quit playing with your hair, or quit saying, oh my God, or quit acting like that. Like, how do you will sound freaking crazy.
Yeah.
And the thing is that you can't even call her out if she's like giving him the look. And so I think
because then you're the one
that's looking crazy. Yeah. But energetically, we're not. Mama didn't raise no fool. Energetically, and you feel it. You're like, I just don't like her. And then you've already had this back and forth banter with them. You guys are, it's so and so's birthday. Now it's so and so's holiday. So and so's having this barbecue, and now you feel like you have to continue to go into these environments that are not good for your marriage or for your relationship. So
or for your own
spirit. Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this on every single season. Sometimes, they're the people that are the closest to you. They're literally family members. And you think she would never, he would never, they would never. And let me tell you something. If you got to question it, it's a possibility. And so I think that you have to continuously protect what you have, in my opinion. I always say this. And if you think that's going to be an issue, maybe limit the amount of times. I know that sometimes, in the past, when I was in a relationship, I would make plans when I knew there was something that was going to happen, like, it's so-and-so's birthday. If I knew that person was going to be an issue, I'd rather say, you know what, I'm going to plan this, so then this way it's like there's an excuse to not go because I know this is going to be an issue. And sometimes I know that sounds kind of strategic, but if you have to protect yourself and really strategize, like, okay, if I come to this party, or if I have to see her and she's gonna do the funny thing and the guy's gonna turn into a comedian, we know he ain't that funny, then why be in that environment? I'd rather limit
and
that exposure. You know what I mean?
That, and I know that we're not even really talking about that, but what stands out to me on that is because we've done this show now for 4 seasons, it's really led me to understand that in those environments, how you can't control, right? That some girl's gonna switch the way she sees her husband, and she's gonna really go for it.
Oh yeah.
And it's very disrespectful to you as his wife, right?
For sure.
But to be in a relationship where the man can go, look at this one, she's trying it. To be in a solid enough relationship where the guy's like, no, I see it.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like, by the way, to have a true hedge of protection in your marriage, is you truly got each other's six, as they say. Like, he has your back.
But the only reason why she'd be doing that, though, respectfully, I'm just saying, sometimes the only reason why she'd be doing that is because she saw that there's a possibility he gave her the cue that it's okay, versus him, like, kind of like cut the crap.
Sometimes I don't know about that, because I've seen girls just,
I don't know. I'm
like,
they go for it.
Yeah, like they just are like, they think they have a little edge on the wife, and they're just gonna kind of go for it, and then it's up to how the guy responds. He doesn't have to be a jerk, but I think if he can turn to you and be like, trust me, I saw. Like, in other words, you two are on the same team, and this girl's drinking, she's out of pocket, and she's freaking slippery, and how sad for her husband.
Yeah.
I think then that's when you can feel a little more solid. And if you don't have that with your husband, then you're not going to feel comfortable bringing him around these people. But these people exist in the workplace, everywhere. They're freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you on that your husband's, your marriage isn't safe in those groups, the party groups, because there's alcohol, substance abuse, provocative clothing, provocative conversations, nightclubs. It's a different thing, and it's it's more sinful or whatever. And I will tell you this is that because you get the comfort level, everybody's so comfortable with each other, then all of a sudden the walls are down, and it's just friends, just friends. And I've been in certain couple circles or whatever where that was really like, we were like guests, I guess you could say, in these couple circles, and all of a sudden you start to see like question, like, is there like more going on
You're
here?
Like, are you guys going off to the back?
Like, those two walked away together.
Wait a minute, she went to the restroom about 20 minutes ago. So,
like those types of things. Now, switching over to the prayer groups, okay? If you decide that you're like, all right, we like to party, but we could just go out with like our friends or our family. Maybe like you have sisters, and you can go out with your sister and her husband, and have that type of entertainment. But then maybe when it comes to like friends, people that are not family, they want to go skiing together, they want to go whatever, they want to go to Vegas together. Do you then go, you know what? I think I'll do that with like my friends that are really praying for their marriages and that really lean in. And no one's perfect. Granted, there might be one that's a little more pervy. One might have a little bit of a drinking problem. Whatever the situation is, do you feel like,
I think
do you feel like it's more solid there?
I don't necessarily think it's more solid. I do believe that it depends on the game plan. Like, let's just say you're going with your prayer friends to Vegas. Okay, what does that look like? Are we just going to kind of do casinos?
Like, go to dinner, shows?
Just something very low key. I think that kind of, matters. I definitely don't think that because the person's praying, they're not going to try to go for it, honestly, not to be rude. I mean, I'm a woman of faith, and Lord knows I pray for everything. But I'm just saying, like, just because you're a person that prays doesn't mean you are not going to try it, possibly. I mean, I'd hope
you're like
not.
Predator. Yes.
I mean, I'd hope not, but I think that you have to, it's not that you're having to watch your back constantly, but I think you have to continue to assess and check, like, what does a vibe feel like? Because at the end of the day, like I always say this, we're energetic beings. Yeah. And so like for me, I got to tell you, like in the past, like I knew, and whether they prayed or didn't pray, I doubt they prayed anyway, but regardless, like I knew if there was a group of people walking in and they're coming to my house because, back then I used to throw a lot of parties or even now, I just can tell who's going to be an issue, and it's not going to be the prettiest girl, and it's not going to be that girl. I just vibrationally know that girl right there, she's going to be a problem. And I think that
I've actually been with you.
Yeah. In
your old life.
Yeah.
When you called it.
I said, she's going to be an issue.
I was like, she's the one that just walked in right now?
I'm like, 100%. I already know. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's assessing. Like, you have to assess and continue to check what is everyone's temperament and temperature. Like, what does this look like? Because I think a lot of the time we think, oh, you know what, this person, they wouldn't do that, or oh, this person, she wouldn't do that. And I think, and I wouldn't say temperament, but I think checking their temperature really, and temperament, I guess, right, in a way, to see like, would they be willing to cross the line? And I think you have to continuously check, because sometimes people see the way that your husband treats you, or your significant other treats you, or maybe he's very caring and very loving, and maybe that person lacks that, so they want what you have. And so you always have to be checking that.
Then you're so lucky, right?
Then you're so lucky, and nobody knows the reality of what happens behind closed doors. So for me, I never ever want to deem somebody lucky. I don't know the cross they bear.
Yeah.
And so no one can really say, oh, that person's lucky. To me, it's like, cool. What I can see looks like they have a great marriage. From what I can see, it looks like they have a great relationship. I definitely think that, the hedges need to be up, and then you have to both be protecting what you have. And I always say this too, it's not what she does, it's what he does in response to what she does.
Yep.
And so that's what it boils down to. And it goes hand in hand with that being a vice versa situation. Like, it's not what the man does, it's what I do in response to what he does. And so I think if you can focus on that instead of whether they're party friends or prayer friends, you just have to continuously check the room, check the vibe. Yeah. Do you feel that she's being a little too chummy? Is she being too smiley and too happy? And, oh my gosh, her hair is all of a sudden in her face the whole time. Like, come on, girl. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't know, maybe I'm just like a crazy Latina. I couldn't tell you. I don't believe that. I just think that energetically you feel it, honestly.
And I've had these conversations with people over the years, even like, for example, we're very close to Orange County, and like South Orange County has a lot of wealth and beauty and everything. And there'll be like certain individuals who say, okay, I'm gonna host this, event at my house. And then the comment, of the woman of the house would be like, yeah, Lala, let's see who shows up half naked. And so it could be like a holiday party, and then they're showing up with their little tiny Mrs. Claus outfits up with the fishnets and the thigh-high boots, and like, and then it's just like, what? It's just fun and everything. But it's like, if you understand that there is a husband in the home, like, I think it's different, right? Like if it's your girlfriends and a bunch of girls, and you're like, hey, let's get sexy, let's get dressed up, and then we'll go out, or we'll have a girls' night in, with all of us. I feel like that's different because women like to feel pretty and attractive and all that. But when you know that you are entering an environment where your friends' husbands are going to be there, what is the allure to dress provocatively and look very sexualized, knowing that these men are going to be there because they are just human? Like, they're going to look and they're going to think thoughts or whatever. And I get that there's no fully preventing it. You are who you are. But these conversations have come up once there's like the woman of the house. You know what I mean?
But I think it goes back to time and place for everything, right? If you're going to go to Vegas, you're going to go to a nightclub. All right, fishnet stockings, cool. Yeah. If you're going to go to a backyard barbecue, you're probably not going to be wearing fishnet stockings, or you shouldn't,
But in Orange County they do.
I mean, I know, but I know, I've seen a lot. I know, and I've seen a lot of that stuff too. And I think that there's a time and place for everything, and then you have to check again, who is the inner circle around you? Who is it? And you have to gauge people. Would she or would he try it? And if you can't 100% be sure, then maybe they shouldn't be around you, right? Because I think there's nothing worse than, you testing your marriage by having people that shouldn't be in your inner circle, or your relationship where they shouldn't even be in those inner circles. So you have to really watch who's around. And I think if that means that, you take a moment and step back and not be drunk and then just assess and read the room, I think that that's most important, because at the end of the day, no one's going to protect your marriage like you're going to protect your marriage. And I would say that your husband should be the same way. No one should protect the marriage more like he should protect the marriage. And we all know that, cheating's very easy to do, especially with modern day social media. But I definitely think that, you have to be protective at all times. At all times, you got to watch. You got to watch who's around you, and vibrationally, you will know.
Yeah. And when we talk about, like, does your partner have your back, I think it's not about confronting people. Right. It's very subtle. It's just you two having an understanding that you both see the same thing. And I think that the challenge comes in when you're in these environments and you see it, like Delia's saying, you see what she's doing and that they're looking at each other or whatever. Like, you just know. But then if you bring it to his attention,
he's gonna call you crazy.
He's like, what are you talking? Why are you so jealous? Like, you're being freaking crazy. Like, you're gonna ruin tonight instead of really having your back. And I think that too often as women, that's the abandonment that we feel, and that's a level of betrayal. Whether he goes around the corner and does something inappropriate with her or not, the betrayal has kind of happened already. I agree. Because I think if he can instead say, oh no, I see it too. Yeah. Like, I totally see it. Yeah. Then you're not crazy.
Yes. And he's accepting that it's true.
And you guys can kind of like laugh at it.
Right.
When she does kind of lean, like grab his shoulder and be like, oh my God, you're so funny. And then you guys
but if you're drinking and he says, I see it, and then you're so funny, and be like, girl, the fudge cake on a stick. What you doing? Right?
I'm injecting the episode. I'm hitting the eject button.
I'm just saying, like, if he's saying, yes, honey, it's true, and she's over there rubbing his shoulder, touching his shoulder, I think I'm going to have an issue with that a little bit. I'm not going to lie to you. You know what I mean?
I think I'm saying,
you
not
know,
that he's like cool with it, but more
I
like he recognizes she's crossing lines.
The line, yeah. I mean, but then at that point, if she is crossing the line, then you have to reassess the group again. Like, you know what? Actually, I just don't want to be around her. And I don't consider myself, by the way, believe it or not, I do not consider myself confrontational.
Yeah.
I'd rather avoid a situation if I can. So how do I avoid that is by not coming into contact with someone like that, in my opinion. You know, it's like, I don't need people like that around me that are going to trigger me. And especially because she's being disrespectful, in my opinion. She's not respecting my marriage situation, my relationship, and I think that, you know, people need to move in that regard and assess the situation.
I think there's this guy, right, that we know who he is, right? Patrick Bet-David.
Oh.
And he built Valuetainment now, but he started in the life insurance industry and stuff like that, and PHP or whatever the company is. And one of the things is, like, we both know, right, quite a bit of people that are part of that company. And I was invited to go to Vegas for one of their big things that they were having to support a particular person who was going to be speaking on stage. And one of the things that I got to hear at the lounge afterwards and everything was the men talk about how they really love the way Patrick leads the pack. And I said, okay, give me an example, like what he does. You know, because Patrick was there and stuff. And they said he gathers us and he says, look, you guys, we're going to be in Vegas. They don't call it Sin City for nothing. Alcohol's going to be flowing. You might be tempted to spend money here. You're actually here to make money. So watch how much you spend on the gambling thing. Watch how much you drink, because there's other people's spouses and things like that. And so they really liked the huddle. And that he really puts the whole, like, men of integrity and all that first. And how to be great husbands, which means if you could be a great husband and a great father, you're a great leader. And if you could do that, then you could build a multi-million-dollar company for yourself, right?
Yeah, I like
and
that.
so it seems really interesting. And so then I guess his wife does something similar, like a similar huddle with the women. And then the women are like, look, you know, or she'll say, like, look, you know, we're in Vegas, you know, people are walking around looking some kind of way. There's a lot of temptation. Try to be patient, but also, like, whatever, okay?
Yeah, however she says it.
However she's doing their huddle. But it really starts with Patrick. And so I find that that's really fascinating to me. The men seem very receptive. They were all sort of talking about it. I got to hear this. And so I don't know Patrick Bet-David personally. I've been in the room with him, but, like, I don't know what he does when no one's looking, you know, and at the end of the day, like, but he seems like an admirable man and a good example of a leader. And he's had great success for himself. But I will tell you this, the men love it. They love that. It's like the iron sharpens iron.
Like
and they
that.
love that those are hedges too within the men,
agree.
within the men's group. So I think that men need that. They don't need that sleazeball on the golf course going, hey, dude, all you have to do is download this app and you guys are good.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They need more like Patrick Bet-Davids in their life to go, hey, what's going on? Like,
why are you doing that? Yeah.
Like, you know.
But recently, I think that this has come to my attention within what you're speaking of, by the way. And what's come to my attention is men that are opting not to do business with men that they know are cheating on their wives. Because the way that they look at it is, if this is a person you chose to spend the rest of your life with
and have kids
with and build a whole ass, you know, because we have to understand that, you know, whoever you choose, it's like kind of like a business partnership, if you want to call it that, right? It's your life partner, it's your lover, it's your everything. And so if that person's going out on her, what makes you think that if you're going to align in business that he's not going to go out on you and then, you know, scheme off the top? So I think, to me, when I've heard that, it's been this aha moment for me, because I feel like, I think that if most people, you know, kind of moved in that regard, maybe the cheating would be maybe lessened, maybe it would be frowned upon, maybe it wouldn't
back to being low integrity,
right?
Viewed as low integrity. That's why Bill Clinton got impeached,
right?
Because it was considered low integrity for the chief, right, of the world to essentially have those moments of weakness. You know, we know the JFK stories, and now he's glamorized for it. But there was a time where that was viewed as the lowest of integrity.
Right.
And in business, you only want to do business with people with high integrity.
For sure. And I think that, you know, if you can move in that regard to where, you know, you're continuously, And I mean continuously, because it could shift. It could be someone that acts very respectful with your partner, and all of a sudden he says something that just kind of clicks to her, and then all of a sudden she's crushing on him. And you got to see that switch. And if you're going to continue to have that person in your life, how is that going to be detrimental to my family? Because at the end of the day, I think that you're one decision away from destroying your life. And I always say this, like even when I drop off my kids, I say, I know it's kind of going on a tangent, but I say, you're one decision away from changing your life, the trajectory of your life. And so for men, it goes back to the same thing. And then for women, it's the same thing too. You're one decision away from changing the trajectory of your life, for good or for bad. So if you're seeing that there's shifts in these groups of people that are coming into your home, because oftentimes you are inviting these people into your home, and they're trying to maybe hook up with your husband. I've seen it firsthand. Yes. And it doesn't matter if they're family, and it doesn't matter if they're friends. It really doesn't matter. If they have no integrity or low integrity, they don't care. And so you have to continue to assess who's coming in your inner circles. Has their vibe changed? Are they still the same? And at the end of the day, no one can protect your marriage like you can protect your marriage,
or your home,
or your home, or your family.
It is a privilege to be invited into your home.
For sure,
it's a privilege to be invited into your life.
For sure,
as a friend, it's a privilege to be part of your family.
For sure,
and around your spouse and around your kids. And I think that there needs to be difficult barriers to entry to a degree.
For sure,
to enter, and I think all of it matters. And
prayer matters too.
Prayer matters big time. Especially if you're struggling with your husband, being on the same page with that, really get into prayer and alignment and go, hey, we got to protect this marriage.
Yeah.
And if a guy, switches and gets googly eyes with you, we're human. It's easy to crush on somebody that's not our spouse. And if something switches, to pray against that too, to say, Father God, I really adore this man. Like this friend of ours. Like I adore him as a friend. Like I love his wife. I love their children. I love our vacations together. Whatever this is, cut it. Whatever this is, I rebuke it.
I think that's the way you got to operate. If you have someone that's coming into your home, if you want to protect your marriage, if you don't, if it's people, I think the power of prayer is always magical in my opinion. So you got to sit in your prayer. If you feel it, it's probably because it's a real feeling. Like I think that
prayer is over punches.
Yeah, for sure. Because the last thing you want is for her to get on his shoulder and you be like, wait a minute, that's just not going to fly with me. So. And I think the moral of the story is, if you feel something's off, pray on it.
Choose your friends and your social circles wisely.
And that's all we got. So cheers.